The Administration and Finance Committee will come to order. 4 members are present. Alderman Lysek is excused. He's out of town currently and has a good excuse. And can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Approval of the minutes.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And item 1 on our agenda is a resolution establishing the health insurance plan with Anthem as the third-party administrator, funding levels, employee premiums, premium share, health savings contributions, and participation in the retiree active rate option for the plan year March 1, 2022 to February 28, 2023. And this is a discussion-only item, so we won't be voting on it, but Ms. Grill, I'll turn it over to you.
I'm going to hand it over to Richard and Alex. I don't know if you want to say anything before Alex goes into it.
Okay, well, I think just want to kind of put it in kind of a perspective for this year. Last year, there was no changes to the plan, no premium increases, no out-of-pocket changes to co-insurance, deductibles, co-pays. It stayed flat last year. The previous year, if you recall, there was a 7% increase to premium costs, and we established deductibles and co-pays at that time. So it was a big change 2 years ago, no change last year. This year, what's going to happen is just proposing a 7% premium increase with no other changes. So no changes to co-pays, deductibles, co-insurance, no changes to premiums for medical or dental or vision. Everything stays the same. So to put that 7% in perspective, Alex was telling us that for other self-insured plans in Wisconsin, looking at about an 8 to 10% increase, where we're at 7% after having been flat last year. And if you put it in perspective of what it would have been had we not been self-insured, I think Alex was indicating probably about a 12 to 14%.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like just put it in kind of context of what that means. So for the employee, because the change is only an increase on the premium, and that's 7% increase, that equates to about, for a family plan, about $18 a month, and for a single plan, about $6 a month. So a nominal increase this year to keep pace with inflation and cover our costs. I guess I'll let Alex talk about kind of what our costs are and how those have changed over the year.
Sure. So if you...
And Alex, introduce yourself to
Sure.
us, please.
Yeah, so my name is Alex Beaudry. I'm vice president with the Horton Group. We are the employee benefits consultants that work with the city to establish your health insurance rates and kind of manage all of your employee benefit plans. I presented to this committee when the weather was much warmer. It was a handful of months ago. And if you may recall, at that time, 2020 was a very good year. Part of it may have been due to COVID. People weren't going to the doctor either because the doctor's office wasn't open, or they were afraid of going to the doctor for contracting COVID, whatever it may have been. Our entire book of business, all of our clients saw a decrease in claims in 2020. And the city of West Allis was no exception. So last year we were able to hold the rates the same, and we were actually able to build a rather large reserve, our fund balance back up, where we had a handful of years where we were decreasing that fund balance. So 2020 was a positive year. 2021 has rebounded in the other direction, but not so dramatically. When I was last here in front of the committee, we were a little bit nervous. We had some higher months of claims, but when I look at 2021 year to date, so January through October, our loss ratio is at 103%. So for every dollar we're paying in, the city and its employees, we've paid out $1.03. So we're holding steady. Over the last 12 months, if you look at a rolling 12 months, it's at 101%. So we're remaining relatively consistent. Now, we'd love to see that be below 100% because that means we're putting more money into that reserve fund, but we've been just kind of holding our own. In terms of the fund balance, we're showing a deficit of about $340,000. So when we look at the budget, our expected costs, we have received a preliminary renewal from Anthem for your stop loss insurance. That's coming in at 19%. When we look at all of the claims plus our actual insurance costs, our percent of change cost is at 6.2%. So we're building in a very small buffer at that 7% to try and continue to put more money into that reserve account. But it's a nominal difference. We're not trying to make money off the employees or anything like that. So we're just trying to maintain that where we are today. And that's why we're recommending a percent increase of 7% with no plan design changes. And it would be, that 7% would be for everybody that's still on the city's insurance plan. So active and retirees, we're not differentiating between the two groups. So with that, I will pause if there's any questions or comments.
And there's no difference between represented or non-represented either. Is that correct?
Right. As far as premium increase,
Yeah.
right, that's the same. The only difference would be that the premium share because of the new contracts that had kicked in for police and fire, they had kind of a graduated increase to the premium share. So now they're at 15%, where the rest of the city employees are at 12%. This is if you complete the HRA. So they're at 15%. So that's the only difference they would have seen was that, but that was negotiated.
But Mr. Chair, but they're still saying the 7% on their 15%.
Right.
And if I, yes, comment also. I guess I just want to say I'm a little concerned if we're saying that we had decreased claims because of COVID and people's unwillingness or inability to go see their doctor. My concern is that there's things that aren't being seen and taken care of and diagnosed, and then eventually, I don't know what it's going to look like. I think we might have said this a year ago when we're done with COVID, that we're going to see a rebound in claims, and I hate to see it. You know, I guess looking back, I guess I wish we would have had a minor increase last year and maybe the 7% this year, and get us into that 99 or 98% and reload that reserve balance better. Because I'm just afraid that if suddenly that we might be seeing a 10 or 12% next year, assuming we get to an end of this thing
I
eventually.
think we've kind of seen the pendulum swing back over the summer. There was 3 consecutive months where it was about 130% or higher.
Yeah.
So we saw that
Do you
kind
think
of
we've
pent-up
already
demand.
taken up that slack on that
Taken up some, and then
unclaimed?
it's dropped back down. the
By
last 2
now,
months.
the hospitals are operating as they were prior to COVID.
Okay.
So I'm not as concerned about that. Now, the health insurance world is volatile to begin with. The rest of the world is starting to feel some inflation costs. We've had that forever. 5 to 7% trend or inflation in our world is normal. So you add that year over year. And then on top of it, I am worried about staffing shortages within hospitals and what that's going to do to costs, because I think the cost of hiring a nurse or a physician is going to be higher. So there's a lot going on in the healthcare industry that could continue to drive up costs. And our claims are our claims. As the city gets older, we would expect some increase. I think it's hard to predict what that number would be. And 2020 was such a low year. I was concerned about adding an increase when we didn't need it, because I don't want to go too far in the other direction either. So we're trying to find that happy medium. I get it. It's no fun to continue to take 5 to 7% increases, but I'd rather do that, to your point, than need a 15 or a 20.
Mr. Chair?
Just on that, before we move on to a different point, I want to go with Ms. Grill and then Dana will get to you.
I just wanted to say that as far as care goes, everyone's required, if they want to get the discount, to go to see a doctor, and their spouses too. So part of that is blood work and things like that. So if there was something that was going on, that's one of the reasons we changed it from just going and getting weighed and your waist measured versus requiring people to go to the doctor. So,
But that's for our specific customer, our employees and our what do we call people we cover? Our covered.
Your dependents and
Our
your
de-
spouses.
our-
yes.
But I'm just saying, in the rest of the world, those people haven't been there, and if suddenly there's a big demand, that's going to push the prices that we have to pay up also. Okay, we're not, yeah, in a perfect world, everybody would be following a rule, getting an annual physical and all that other stuff. But I guess my concern is there's still a lot of people who are sitting at home and are afraid to go out and have, especially to go to a doctor, or they've just been delaying until, so that was my concern.
Alderwoman Keene.
So 7% increase or what? I mean, just how it's phrased, it kind of seemed like there might have been there's not a second
Make
option.
other choices.
So the city is self-insured, so we essentially have the authority to set our own rates. Now, if we set them too low, that means we're going to need to come back and find the money elsewhere. So what we do is we do a forecast of what we expect your costs to be moving forward and do our best to project that so that we don't have to call for more money later on. So if you guys told me, hey, we want it to be zero, we could do that. It's just there's going to be consequences to those decisions.
Right.
But to your question, there's like 5 or 6 variables, and the premium increase is only one variable. So there's the other, the out-of-pocket expenses. So we could have increased deductibles. They're actually, I guess, pretty low at $250 and $750, for single and family. I think, you could revise those. You could look at our co-insurance. It's generally at 10%. There are a lot of people that have it at 20%. And you can look at our co-pays are like about $25 on most visits. So those are other variables you could address.
But those are less, you don't know exactly that those are guaranteed. At least with the premium share, you know that people are going to be paying in.
Right, because the deductible, if no one goes, they're not going, if it increases to $260. If they don't go to the doctor at all and pay anything into that deductible, we don't ever see that money to compensate for potentially having to grab it somewhere else, right? That's the risk with that.
Potentially, yes.
And I think if we were looking at double-digit increases, we would have looked at some of these other factors.
So it would have gone like almost from like 250 to 500 or 750 to 14.
Well, if you guys decided that, but yeah, it's something that we could have changed. This was like the least
Impactful.
Particularly since these out-of-pocket expenses are still relatively new to city employees here, where they didn't exist 2 years ago, prior to 2 years ago, and so to keep some stability there was really a factor as well.
Right, I think this is a great proposal, right, balancing both what's best for the city and for our employees. It's very reasonable, a very modest increase. I think it's something we can all be happy with. We can all congratulate ourselves on what Horton did.
It's all based on your claims experience. And
Our employees too.
Yeah, and our employees too, yes.
And there are
That's your
some
point,
there are
yes.
some factors, I think, too, to Rebecca's point. Making folks go see the doctor for their catching things early. We're exploring implementing other programs, for example, for like diabetes management. We were able to work out a better deal with our pharmacy benefit manager for some cost savings. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes with the administration team here, and we're going to keep making sure we're on top of that as well. So.
All right, thank you. Is there any other discussion on this issue?
It'll be before the committee on the 14th to vote on. So, do you need Alex to be there then?
I think we do not. We can
Okay.
save Alex a trip as I look at everyone else for agreement. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thanks. Thank you. All right, then, item 2, we'll be moving into closed session. The agenda item is considering compensation and performance evaluation data for city officials and deputy assistant service employees. For agenda item number 2, the committee may convene in closed session pursuant to the provisions of section 19.851C of the state statutes for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, and performance evaluation data of there are question marks there, I think that meant to be completed, but it's of service of employees, and to take such further action as may be necessary and appropriate after reviewing the data considered in closed session. This committee may reconvene in open session after the completion of the closed session to consider the balance of the agenda. Can I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Motion from Alderwoman Keene and a second from Alderman Tenorio and Alderman Weigel.
No, I didn't know if you heard Angelito.
Oh, you gave the motion. Well, I
Are you saying-
recognize.
Shebo, yeah,
Are you
moved
gonna
and
say
seconded
aye?
by Angelito.
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Yeah, I didn't know if you heard.
That's what I said.
You were looking at the
You
screen.
just screwed me up. And
I didn't know if you heard. You were looking at something else.
yeah, thank you, Marty. Marty, how do you vote?
Aye.
Alderwoman
Oh, that
Keene
was it.
Aye. Yeah, that's what we were looking
and
for.
Alderman Tenorio. And the chair votes aye. All right, we're in closed session.
You screwed.